And we have to kick it off with number one. And it's my favorite one because it's a lot of, I would say where I come in and as a coach, a teacher, a mentor, a trainer, a facilitator, we spend a lot of time on limiting beliefs. That is, if you think you can't, you won't. And if you think you can, you can. And I know it sounds cliche, but Whitney, the world has sped up so fast. And as a real estate investor, you wear all these different hats. You got to go out there and look for deals. You got to go out there and look for capital, and you got to look for more investors, and you got to deal with property management. And so with all of this stuff coming at us all day long, and I know the same is for you, where you have to stand guard at the door of your mind and not let, a bad deal that you didn't get throw you out of the game, or maybe your property manager screwed up somewhere and that triggers you. Or maybe an investor that said they're putting 50 grand into a deal doesn't put 50 grand into the deal, and now you're short. So what I do is I help people, again, get real with who they are, what they want, why they want it, and have a very strong mind in, staying on course no matter what obstacles or, roadblocks come in the way. Does that make sense?
It does. And I remember, even at the conference, looking over some of my notes, you talked about 80% psychology, how you think, and 20% mechanics. And, I appreciated, just how you laid that out. I can relate to that for sure. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't.
Yeah, it really is. And again, we go through different cycles. I mean, it's not just one time we say, okay, here's what I want, and then we go get it in a straight line. I've never seen a real estate investor in my time, and certainly hasn't been my experience, that just constantly goes up and up and up and up. There are speed bumps. There are things that happen, whether it is external, like interest rates, or external, like something Donald Trump does, or external in, what's going on in the economy, or it's internal. It's the way that you're feeling about something, or the way that you're being triggered by something, or the way that you are seeing through a certain lens. Well, maybe I'm the guy that helps you take off those lenses and put on a better lens, because you can only control what you can control. We can't control what interest rates do. We can't control what the market does. No, I don't think we can control Trump. We might influence it, but we can't control it. So again, stand guard at the door of your mind. And that's the first step in really owning your opportunity to scale your business.
Oh, I like that. It is so important. I can relate for sure.
Yep, you bet. Number two is really, really fascinating as well. And that is lack of a strategic plan. I mean, come on. If you don't know what the end game is, if you don't have an idea of where you want to go, whether that's how big you want to build your portfolio, how many doors you want to own, which markets you want to be in, which asset class you want to be in, you're fooling yourself. And most people are out there winging it. They're like, well, I want to buy property in 2019. And I come in and say, well, let's reverse engineer a little bit more about what that looks like. So we start to reverse engineer it, and then we build a blueprint to get there. And I mean, life's a lot more fun when you know where you want to go, and then you've got a roadmap, a recipe, or a blueprint that takes you from where you are to where you want to be. But again, most people spend more time planning a vacation than they do their portfolio. And that's something that I really get passionate about, is having that clarity, that certainty, and that confidence that we can get them where they want to go. Does that resonate with you?
It does. And, I feel like, myself and others also, it's like, well, how big should that goal be? Or, you hear somebody say, I want, 10,000 units in 2 years, or, and other people are like, well, wait a minute, that's just not possible. Or, or then other people are like, no, I can do it, and so, I guess, how do we make sure that's realistic and something we can shoot for?
Oh, that's a super question. I'll give you, the nod for that, because you chunk it down. We all need to have what we call short-term goals, Whitney. And short-term goals are what we deem to be 1 year or less. So that is, let's absolutely identify, what do we want by the end of December 31st, 2019? And then we can chunk those into, 30-day goals to move towards it, 60-day goals, 90-day goals, 6-month goals, whatever it is. And then beyond that, we call that a person's vision. So again, goals that are short-term are 1 year or less, goals that are long-term are 1 year and more, but we want to have some sort of vision, because without a vision, people perish, and I believe that the human spirit needs something to look forward to. It's like Joe Fairless, my client Joe, he wrote this awesome best ever book. He puts on conferences. He's got his podcast like you, and I see you've got yours there all earmarked and dog marked like mine. But, Joe and I have set the vision to get to $1 billion worth of real estate. Now, to a lot of listeners, that might sound crazy, But I'm telling you, it's not if you absolutely know where you want to go and what needs to happen to get there. It's like going up a set of stairs, right? And sometimes you won't know, what's on step number 5 until you hit steps 3 and 4. But from steps 3 and 4, you can see up higher, and you just start, connecting the dots or putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Does that make sense?
It does. I appreciate, just you explaining that, how the goal may not be too lofty if you know how to get there, if you know the steps. That makes complete sense.
You bet. So then we move on to number 3, and number 3 is really, really important as well for the 5 keys to really wanting to scale your business in real estate, because, I can help you with your limiting beliefs as a master platinum coach. And I can help you create that roadmap, that recipe or blueprint. But what number 3 speaks to is the fact that most people aren't taking massive action every day. I mean, come on. If you're not out driving neighborhoods, if you're not out there talking to brokers, if you're not out there talking to investors, talking to property managers, sending direct mail or whatever you do to get leads, you're fooling yourself. That's real estate by hope. And I'm not a guy that allows people to just, hope that deals show up. I'm the one that gets them out there and make sure they're doing the right things in the right order at the right time for the right reasons. Because again, it's systematic. And again, it's not that you're going to meetups, or it's not that you're going to a conference, or that you're reading a great book. It's frequency. It's how often are you going to meetups? Are you going to more than what the average person does? Are you cultivating relationships with brokers so that they bring you the deals instead of giving them to someone else? So step 3 is really, working the plan on purpose and with purpose. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Got to have purpose. Got to know why you're doing what you're doing.
You bet. And you got to have fun doing it as well, because, real estate is a competitive industry. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are looking to do what everyone else is doing. But, as we check in with your limiting beliefs, we create the plan, and we get out there and work the plan. It's survival of the fittest. And I do believe that real estate is one of the greatest wealth vehicles on the planet. Certainly has been in my life, in your life, and it'll continue to be for all your listeners if they choose to do these 5 things we're talking about here. Does that resonate?
It does. Yes, very much so.
You bet. Yeah. So then we get to have some fun and go into number 4. And the cool thing about number 4 is it's got an ABC to it. So the first part of number 4, and again, something that I really, really work with my clients on, is time management. Because I can tell the quality of an investor's life by where they spend their time or by where they don't spend their time. So we work to optimize and maximize their calendar. We work to optimize and maximize what I call the high impact, high income, opportunities. And we start to take a look at what should we be outsourcing to other people. Should we be doing something, delaying something, delegating it, or dumping it? And with the 4 Ds of time management, you really start to get clear on, what you should and shouldn't be doing. Does that make sense?
It does. I can relate to that as well.
You bet. You bet. So then the second part of number 4 is systems. Now, again, if you're a syndicator, or if you're in real estate, or if you're in any asset class, and you don't have tried and true systems, and you're flying by the seat of your pants and recreating things over and over again, that's not the best way to run a business. So I help people get crystal clear on what systems they need to really scale and scale for the long term. Because again, a system could be something as simple as a process. It could be something simple as, being able to understand where your occupancy is, or where your accounts receivable is, accounts payable is, having a crisis management binder should the unthinkable happen. I mean, we leave no stone unturned, because, life shows up sometimes, and, there's nothing that surprises me anymore, but you've got to have systems to deal with what you deal with every day. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. That's the only way that I've been able to scale what I've done just in the last few months, is by having systems and having a team.
That's it. So if number 4 is time management, number 4B is systems, number 4C is communication. I mean, let's talk about it. How well are you communicating with your property manager? How well are you communicating with your team of advisors, like your coach, or your investor network, or your meetup group, or your insurance agent? How are you communicating with your GCs? How are you communicating with your electricians, your plumbers? And it's not just how are you communicating, but how often? How frequent? And do you know your outcomes with those people? I mean, if you've got opportunity to talk to a property manager and you know that you're, spending money needlessly on something, are you addressing it right then and there? Or are you letting it fester and get you pissed off, and then you're going to bring it up 2 weeks from now? Because that's not how to run a business either. The other thing that we talk about in communication is really getting specific about what brokers want to hear from investors. What do investors want to hear, when you're asking them to put money into a deal? How do you speak to people to become what I call a master of influence? Because, people say all the time that they're in the real estate game. And I say that's not true. You're in the relationship game. And if you don't have great communication skills, you're leaving money on the table. Would you agree?
I agree completely.
You bet. So that's really the 3 parts of number 4. And then, Whitney, the final one, number 5, is a lack of accountability. That is, if you don't have somebody like a coach holding your feet to the fire, making sure they're following up in terms of what you said you were going to do, the path of least resistance kicks in for most human beings, and they find themselves watching TV or surfing the net or, monkeying around on Facebook when they should be working on, building their business so that one day they don't have to, work in the business. They can work on it and have other people doing everything. So to recap then, if number 1 is mindset, number 2 is building a strategic plan, number 3 is really executing that plan, number 4 is time management, it's systems and it's communication, and number 5 is have somebody holding you accountable. Could be a business partner, could be a coach, could be, a really close friend, doesn't matter. Those are the 5 things that I've identified that when you as a syndicator, you as an investor, you as a real estate professional own those 5 things, life becomes so much better, and you start having deals fall to you like an avalanche of abundance. You start having people want to put money into your deals. You start having a much better time doing it. And, I always say again that, we get one shot around this beautiful blue planet. We should enjoy it and have fun doing it.